Greetings to the members of the Tribunal Superior do Trabalho and the National Council of Justice in Brasilia. My name is Colin Rule, and I'm Chief Operating Officer and co-founder of an online dispute resolution service provider located in Silicon Valley called Modria.com. I wish I was in person with all of you there in Brasilia for your meeting, but this is the second best option available, which is to present via video. And I thank very much the organizers for giving me a chance to share some of my thoughts on the future of online dispute resolution with all of you today via this medium. I recently completed a new book with my good friend Amy Schmitz called The New Handshake: Online Dispute Resolution and the Future of Consumer Protection for the American Bar Association in the United States. And what I'd like to do over the course of this video is to share with you some of the conclusions and projections that we put into that book. Amy and I were motivated to write the book by the momentum that ODR is experiencing all around the world. UNCITRAL recently concluded its Working Group 3 on online dispute resolution, and while they did issue a paper calling for expanded access to high-quality dispute resolution for consumers around the world, they were unable to reach consensus among the 66 participating member delegations on what the rules for that global system might look like. We have seen a lot of regional advances on online dispute resolution, such as the EU region-wide ODR system, which was launched earlier this year, and which requires all EU member state merchants to advise their consumers about the availability of ODR, and the EU has created its own filing form for accepting cases within that scheme. We've also seen the UK announce that they are moving quickly towards digitizing their courts and creating an online civil court, maybe called Her Majesty's Online Court, which will process all civil cases less than £20,000 or so in value. And we've seen similar advances in British Columbia. So Amy and I wanted to essentially pick up on the momentum from UNCITRAL Working Group 3 and articulate our vision of what a global consumer protection ODR scheme could look like. And what we wanted to do was synthesize Amy's expertise in consumer protection and my expertise working as the director of online dispute resolution at eBay and PayPal. And at eBay and PayPal, at the time I left in 2011, we were processing more than 60 million disputes per year, and 50% of that 60 million were being resolved amicably, meaning the buyer and the seller were working their issues out. So we created this global resolution center infrastructure, both for eBay and PayPal, and we realized we wanted to create a vision that would extend that to other areas on the internet and around the world that needed resolutions, particularly in the consumer context. So combining Amy's consumer protection experience and her legal expertise with my expertise coming from eBay and PayPal, we distilled all of that into a set of lessons and design criteria that we use to inform the rules that we present in the new handshake. And these key design criteria that we articulate are summarized on this slide. We believe that consumer expectations have changed very significantly since the 80s and the 90s, while consumer protection and consumer redress mechanisms have not kept pace. So ideas like resolution should be fast and easy, discoverability and easy access are key. We're now going to go through each one of these points one by one and talk about their ramifications. But this distilled set of 7 design criteria are what we use to articulate our vision for the future of consumer protection. We really believe that any system that's going to be built to meet the needs of consumers as they exist now and will exist in the future must abide by these design criteria. So the first design criteria is resolution should be fast and easy. What we found at eBay and PayPal is that consumers would rather lose their disputes quickly than win their disputes and have it take a long period of time. And our studies show that that long period of time was about 12 days. If a resolution process took longer than 12 days, the consumer was so frustrated that even if they won and got a full refund, they were still sad that they initiated the process in the first place because it had been just such a headache to get the problem solved. So what we realized is the number one thing the consumers prize is fast and easy resolutions, which takes us to number 2. Discoverability and easy access are essential. And that means users must be able to access resolution procedures however they find it to be most convenient. And that includes mobile devices, that includes within the online environment where the transaction originally took place. That discoverability is a key determinant of customer satisfaction and consumer satisfaction with resolution processes. And that takes us to number 3. Sellers have structural advantages. There are certain imbalances in online interactions between buyers and sellers because sellers engage in so many transactions, they go through the resolution process again and again, and they learn all the corner cases, and they know all of the policies, and they know exactly what they need to do in order to win a case. Whereas most consumers don't even have a transaction problem within a year, and if they do have a transaction problem, they only have one. So that means when we design online dispute resolution systems, we really have to make sure that we can compensate for these structural advantages which are enjoyed by sellers. Those power imbalances must be combated in the systems design itself. Which takes us to point number 4. Most systems designers presume everything is fraud, and they look at the world and they see all of these fraudulent events occurring, and they think there are so many bad guys out there, we just need to design the system to protect the victims, who are consumers. And actually, if you look at the totality of cases, that's not the reality. In the vast majority of problems that are reported are the result of miscommunication. And as we learned at eBay, 50% of issues can be resolved by mutual agreement, communication between the two parties. So to treat these issues as fraud, and this is especially a problem in terms of government agencies, because government agencies frequently only see the data which is escalated to the government agency, which is a tiny subset of the total volume of issues that are happening around the world. So most of the miscommunications never make it to a government agency, but the cases that do make it to a government agency or a government consumer protection authority are the ones that most likely involve fraud. So the presumption is all of this is bad guys, but in fact that's not the case, and if you use that as a key design criteria, odds are you're going to be misdesigning the system. Which takes us to number 5. Outcomes have to be consistent and fair. Consumers insist upon processes that deliver not only fair outcomes, meaning they get redress that's appropriate to the harm that they have experienced in the transaction problem, but also they have to be consistent. And consumers need to know that if the problem arises again and it fits the same fact pattern, they're going to get the same outcome. And merchants need to know that also, because that consistency is what incentivizes good behavior on the part of transaction partners. And that takes us on again to point number 6. Redress doesn't have to be legally binding. And this was the issue that really caught up UNCITRAL. Years were spent negotiating about whether or not the outcomes of these ODR processes need to be enforceable in a court. And what we concluded from our experience at eBay and PayPal, where none of the 60 million outcomes that we delivered were enforceable in a court, but 99.999% of those consumers and merchants never appealed the outcomes to a court because they felt that the redress that they received was adequate and definitive. We believe that these systems do not have to be legally binding. Consumers can preserve their legal right to go to a court if they think it's appropriate, and it still solves the vast majority of the problems experienced. Trying to figure out which jurisdiction applies, which law applies, when the marketplace and the merchant and the consumer may all be in different countries, it's too onerous for a system like this to truly scale. Which takes us to point number 7. Resolution systems must continuously learn. They must adapt to cultural realities. They must adapt to changing market realities. We cannot design a system, build a castle in the sky and say we figured out all of the problems and this is the way it's going to work for time immemorial, because if anything is the truth on the internet, reality is constantly changing. The marketplace is constantly changing. We have to constantly gather input from consumers, input from merchants, look at changing market dynamics, and evolve our ODR systems to be appropriate to those newly changed environments. So that continuous learning is a key component of any system, and we can't create rules that are too hard and fast if we expect it to succeed. So all of this is interesting, I'm sure, but what I'd like to do is show you a quick demo of Modria's consumer platform, because we have built this software to abide by the guidelines that I've just shared. And as we build a global system in partnership with internet intermediaries like large marketplaces and large payment companies and large merchants, but also in cooperation with consumer protection authorities and consumer agencies, government agencies, we want to provide a system that can scale, that abides by best practices in terms of software development, but also abides by the standards that we've articulated for ourselves and meets the ethical obligations that we've created for online dispute resolution practice.
Modria's Resolution Center is a centralized location where users can log in and they can see all of the cases that they're involved in. So I'm logging in here as a mediator, and when I click that login button, it takes me right to my case list. So these are all the cases that I've been assigned as a mediator. Now that means an individual disputant may only have one case, mediator may have 5 cases. Now if you're an administrator, you may have lots of cases, so you need to filter them and find certain results. You can export the data to a file that you can process on your hard drive. But if you click on any individual case, it takes you into the case, and you can see the main focus is on the discussion. So it's very easy to post a message into the discussion. You just type it in, kind of like you do on Skype or like SMS, and it just appears there and it's communicated to the other side. In this case, I, as the mediator, I have 3 different discussions that I'm managing. One is the joint discussion, and now I'm typing into kind of the caucus space. So this is only for me and the appellant. And then I got a third conversation, which is only for me and the respondent. So I have all 3 of these discussions. Now a party would only have 2, the joint discussion and the caucus. We also have file management, so you can upload files and share it. You have the background of the case with all the case details, the participants, whatever you want to show on that page. And then a timeline that kind of shows you the main milestones of what's happened in the case so far. So you can always just log in and get a status update, kind of where things are currently. Now we also have reporting, so you can build as many reports as you want. You can structure them however you want. You can see here, you can see how many cases are closed and open and what the different types are, not as described or item not received. You can see how many people are logged in, how long it's taking for cases to be resolved. But again, all these reports are completely configurable, and you can build as many reports as you like, and you can even distribute them to people as PDFs or via email on a regular cycle. So this is a little bit more developed platform. It has a little more administrative functionality. So you can see here, these are the accounts. So we have a very powerful account management tool, and you can log in and see all the information about each user. You can update their information. They can update their information as well. You can type in new users and invite them to participate. We also have a very cool functionality called the Policy Center, and this lets you actually create rules that can auto-decide or auto-escalate or auto-route cases. So you can see when you click into one of these policies, it has a name, you can track its versions, you can say when it starts, when it ends, you can say, you know, which cases this would apply to, and then what actions are going to be taken. Maybe automatically send out an email, or automatically escalate a case, or automatically provide a refund. It's totally configurable, and you can change them in real time. We also have documents that are editable in real time by administrators. So all the emails that are sent out by the platform, you can log in at any time, click on the email, update the text, and then it's immediately updated. So the administrator has a lot of power. It's also very easy for parties or mediators or administrators to file cases. They just click this file a button box, and you can create this intake process kind of like SurveyMonkey. You just select what questions you want and put them in there, and it's very easy for people to type in the information, and then they hit submit, and then the case is created. Now we also have a mobile interface where all of this functionality is available via mobile. So if you access it on a phone, it gives you this interface, which gives you the same functionality, but it's on the mobile device. And we find lots and lots of people prefer these mobile interactions these days for interacting with platforms like this. Makes it much more accessible. So we've extended this platform to other user experiences. This is a platform called MyLawBC.
And we have many other platforms as well that we're working with. Our first user of the Modria system was actually Consumer Protection British Columbia in Canada, and they've been using our system continuously since launch. And recently we have put together a partnership with the Online Consumer Mediation Center in India. We are looking all over the world for partners to extend the Modria platform to provide fast and fair resolutions to consumers that can straddle borders, straddle jurisdictions, and help people resolve problems. And we hope that the new handshake design will help to stitch these systems together into a meaningful redress process that'll be appropriate for consumers in this newly connected global e-commerce world that we live in. So once again, I'm very sad not to be in the room with all of you. I will yield the rest of my time, but I very much appreciate this opportunity to share some of the thinking that we're doing at Modria and to share a little preview of what we're going to be releasing in the new handshake in just a few months. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me. My email address is there on the screen, and I very much look forward to chatting and working with all of you as we move forward. So have a great conference, and I wish I was there with you, but I hope to see all of you in person soon. Thank you very much.